Now then, let's talk about UFC Fight Night in Mexico City. I'll break down these odds for you, starting with the main event, El Cucuy Tony Ferguson against Rafael dos Anjos in a lightweight fight that's scheduled to go 5 rounds. The former champion against one of the top 5 lightweights in the division, and the line on this one is really, really close. Dos Anjos is the favorite, minus 150. Ferguson, plus 130. That's almost a coin flip. Now, there's a couple of fights that actually are coin flips. We'll get to those, but, man, this could go either way. Dos Anjos, he looked really, really dominant until Eddie Alvarez found his chin. And if he returns to the form of old, he's a favorite for a reason, but I think Ferguson might actually hit harder than Eddie Alvarez. Eddie Alvarez is a natural boxer. He's got great technique, but I think Ferguson is just a straight blast guy. That's not a pun on Irish gyms, mind you. I'm just saying that he really connects hard when he puts one on that chin. Ferguson can probably drop anybody in the lightweight division if he lands a perfect shot. So it's not that much of an upset to say El Cucuy wins, considering how close this line is, but I think I'll go with the underdog here and pick him to really hurt Dos Anjos in this fight. But if it goes the other way, I'm not going to be surprised. We've also got some Ultimate Fighter Latin America fights on here. Can't say I've watched that season or know those fighters well, but I will give you the odds. Claudio Puelles is minus 110, and so is Martin Bravo, or Martin Bravo, whatever it is. They're both minus 110, so no winner can really be found in that. The two coaches for this season were Forrest Griffin and Chuck Liddell. That's kind of a throwback there, but they're obviously not fighting on this show because both of them are retired, so you need some other fights on this card. Marcin Held and a longtime UFC veteran Diego Sanchez, both fighting here at lightweight. Held is the favorite at minus 265, Diego Sanchez plus 225 as the dog, which to me makes sense because Sanchez is probably getting to that point in his career where he's taken a few too many beatings, might want to start thinking about retirement. He's not completely done yet. It's win-loss, 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 win-loss. He's not going on any kind of streak, and when he gets those wins, it's never decisive. It's a lot of split decisions. He managed a decision over Jim Miller, which was better than some of his other bouts, and then he just immediately got destroyed by Joe Lozon in only 26 seconds after that, which really gave me doubts on whether Diego should continue. And if you ever saw Held in Bellator, he's not ideal with the hands, but he's probably got enough in him. He's improved over the time that he's worked on it that he might be able to catch Diego on the chin, especially since he's slowing down a little at this point. But where Diego really wants to look out is if Held gets it to the ground or he pulls guard and goes for a knee or a leg. He's got wicked good submissions. This kid is a Polish phenom when it comes to the submissions. You don't want to be in a leg lock with him. Not as bad as, say, Husmar Palhar is. He's not going to intentionally hurt you by refusing to let go, but he is dangerous on the ground, so I'll go with Held to win that. Then we've got Ricardo the Bully Lamas against Charles Oliveira. Coin flip. Oliveira is a slight favorite here at minus 120, but I'll go with the Bully at plus 100. He's had a little bit of rough luck of late, lost 2 out of 3, beat the aforementioned Diego Sanchez between that. I think now he probably comes back and shines. Meanwhile, Charles Oliveira, he missed weight for a fight he won with Miles Jury, and he lost fights to Max Holloway and Anthony Pettis, so he doesn't strike me as having a huge advantage here over Ricardo Lamas. I think if Lamas returns to form, he should do well in this fight. Even though he's technically the underdog, it's so close that I feel like going for Lamas makes sense here. We've got Beneil Dariush against Rashid Magomedov in another lightweight bout. A lot of lightweight bouts on this main card of UFC Fight Night in Mexico City. And another close line here as Magomedov is a small favorite at minus 145. Dariush is plus 125. Now let's look at their recent record in their last few fights. We've got Dariush winning 4 out of his last 5, knocking off some really good names in the process. Darren Cruikshank, the Detroit superstar, Jim Miller, who we just talked about, Michael Johnson. That was a really close fight, but he won a split decision in that one. And he beat James Vick with a knockout. His only loss in that time was a rear naked choke to Michael Chiesa. Now, on Magomedov's part, things are going pretty damn well for him. He's only lost 1 fight, and you have to go all the way back to 2010 for that to have happened. Since then, he's gone from 8-1 to 19-1, and the hits just keep on coming. In his last 5 fights, he beat Gilbert Burns, Elias Silverio, Rodrigo Dam, Tony Martin, and Alexander Yakovlev. So, going pretty well for Magomedov. Right now, the line is, as I said, minus 145 in Magomedov's favor. Seems to me that's the right call here. I'm not saying Dariush couldn't do it, and I'm not saying he doesn't have the diversified portfolio to find a way to do it. 3 knockouts, 6 submissions, 4 decisions out of 13 wins. He seems to be good in any kind of fight, any style of fight. Magomedov, he's really come into his own, proving that he was what people thought he was before he came to UFC. He's gotten better with the hands. He used to be known only for decisions, but of late, he's gotten back to finding knockouts with that fight with Elias Silverio. Don't know that that's going to happen with Dariush, but it could turn into that kind of fight. I still expect him to win it, though. Last but not least, for the main card, we have a strawweight fight with Heather Jo Clark going against Alexa Grasso. Alexa Grasso, if you haven't heard already about her, she's considered the next big thing in strawweight. And with an 8-0 record, it's not hard to see why. She just cruised through everybody she faced in Invicta, beat Ashley Smashley Cummins, beat Alita Gray, beat Mizuki Inoue. Then, in her latest fight, she beat Jodie Esquibel. And there was really nothing left for her after that. It was like, okay, what do we do with this girl? She's 8-0. She's beating the bricks off everybody. She's ready for the UFC level, so let's move her over. Of her 8 wins, 4 are by knockout. And Heather Jo Clark, I mean, she's a decent fighter. Let's not take anything away from her. She did get a decision over Rowdy Beck Rawlings. That took some doing. And she's faced plenty of tough competition over the years. She went to decision with Stephanie Eggink, didn't win. She went to decision with Felice Herrig. That was a split decision, so she didn't get the win there, but both tough fights for her. She can go in there and have tough fights with really good women. Things definitely didn't go her way when she fought Karolina Kowalkiewicz. She lost that one by unanimous decision. Really, her last big win was Beck Rawlings. So I think the line here is right. I think the odds makers have called it correctly. They have this minus 470 for Grasso, plus 375 for Jo Clark. That's too big of an upset for me. I'm not going to pick it. Pre-main card fights, I'm just going to focus on a couple of them. Joe Soto will take on Marco Antonio Beltran. He's plus 100. Joe Soto is minus 140. This was a late-made fight. Guido Canetti was originally expected to face Beltran, and they were competitors on Tough Latin America, but Canetti was pulled from the bout when he failed a USADA test. So Joe Soto gets the replacement fight at a catchweight of 140, and I think he takes advantage of the newcomer to UFC here. I think he'll get the job done. The other fight I want to focus on from the prelims is Smilin' Sam Alvey taking on Alex Nicholson. Alvey is the minus 230. Nicholson is plus 190. That line is, again, pretty much on the money. People think Alvey is just a gimmick, but he's more than a smile and a girlfriend that used to be on America's Top Model. He's the real deal. He's won, 5 of his last 7 fights. He lost a decision to Elias Teodoro, who I think is a really special fighter, and we'll be seeing a lot more from him in the future, but no shame in losing that. He got knocked out by Derek Brunson, so he didn't win the war there, but his other wins, he's looked good. Dylan Andrews, Cesar Ferreira, Dan Kelly, Eric Spicely, he guillotine choked. That was a first round finish in Sioux Falls. He looked really good in that fight. And King Kevin Casey, who is no longer with UFC after his last fight, he lost to Albie by TKO and was released from the promotion. I think he'll make a comeback, though. I think King Casey's probably going to land in Bellator, but that one spelled doom for him. We'll see how it goes for him in the future, but for Albie in the present, I think this should be a nice win for him. I think minus 230 has it just about right. And that's going to do it for Glove Up or Shut Up tonight. My apologies that Peter H. couldn't be here to join me for this show, but I hope you've enjoyed my breakdowns of Bellator 163 and the UFC Fight Night in Mexico City. Peach Machine will be covering the latter right here on AngryMarks.com, and I'll be covering Bellator for MMA Mania, so be sure to go to MMAmania.com, check out my interviews with the Bellator fighters that are popping up over there, check out my predictions, my live play-by-play, and AngryMarks.com, your home for everything else that I do, whether it's pro wrestling, MMA, or Thursday Night AMP with my co-hosts, the great Sudoku and Abby, and of course, Jordan's Corner. Jordan J. Garber always joins us for a few minutes on each show. That's going to do it for Glove Up or Shut Up. I'm Stevie J. For my co-host Peter H., who couldn't be here tonight, thanks for listening, and as he always says, never leave it to the judges. Good night, everyone.